Yo, what's up, party people? This is Jonathan from the future, just editing this podcast. Thought I'd preface with a couple things. First off, in the absolute heat and flustered state that we were all in hosting such incredible guests on this podcast, not only did we lose part of Liam's audio and the entirety of Babu's, but Torrin got lost in the woods and couldn't find his way back to the recording studio, so he wasn't there at all.
I'm sorry.
Secondly, I've split this podcast in twain because of how much glorious content we got. The second half will be a bit more movie heavy. Now, without further ado, won't you please enjoy this podcast? Or else they may get angry.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have quite the surprise for you. As you can tell by the intro, we have two beautiful men with equally luscious hair on the podcast as guests today. And that would be none other than horrific good friend and the wonderful mentor and superstar icon, Mr. Vandenberg. Round of applause, please. Round of applause.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to get you on. I will not lie, Mr. Vandenberg. When you agreed to come onto this podcast, I jumped around my room for at least 5 minutes. And I think it's also great to have you on. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, getting right into it. Now, there's a reason that I brought both of you on for this podcast. And that would be the connection of drama, the world of drama. And we're not talking about, school relationships or anything. I'll put the Vandenberg laugh again. Okay. We're talking about the world of theater. I've been privileged to be in 3 productions with Horrific and Mr. Vandenberg at the head guiding it all. I think we should just jump into some memories from that. Start with an easy question. Mr. Vandenberg, who was your favorite person in the cast from Romeo and Juliet?
Who's my favorite person?
Yeah.
Actor-wise?
Sure.
Sure. Or favorite character that I enjoyed?
Whatever.
Either or.
Either or. I enjoyed many aspects of the play. I'm not gonna. It's like choosing your favorite child. I enjoyed many of the performances. I think everyone brought a lot of good stuff to it. I'm going to be very diplomatic in my answer there.
Very, very good answer. Horrific? You don't have to answer. It's all right.
I'm not so sure. I really liked Joey taking the part of Romeo, and it's his first time doing something that big and him being the main role. So it's great to see him doing that, and he did a really good job. I think you did an amazing job with your dance.
Mm-hmm.
I love the dance. I would dance in the back when you were doing it. It was so good.
There's no way I could have been able to done the dance without the private lessons from Mr. Vandenberg.
That was a fun afternoon of dancing with you, Jonathan.
I have a special video of him dancing that he told me to never release, but I just want the viewers to know that it was like a beautiful deer, galloping through a field. It was absolutely wonderful. Okay, next drama question. We have been on 3 together. That would be you and me, Horrific. That would be You Can't Take It With You, Joseph and the Technicolored Malted Coat thing, and Romeo and Juliet. Out of those 3 experiences, I'd have to say, not necessarily favorite, but most impactful, I think, memories that I got out of that had to have been the first time, with You Can't Take It With You. because the cast that was in there, it was a lot of senior people, and I remember when I first came into the room and we were like meeting each other and doing the first table read. I told the Horrific, I was like, oh man, this is gonna suck. Like,
I remember. We were just completely, like, we were dreading it. We didn't want to come.
Yeah, we were thinking it was just gonna be. That was grade 9.
Okay.
We were thinking it's just gonna be Horrific, me, Isabella, and Mia mostly spending most of the time just ganged up together against all these other grades and fighting our way through. But it turned out to be absolutely beautiful. And I think all the seniors there, I just had some wonderful memories with them. And I talked with them a bit before this podcast, because we still have a group chat that we made years ago. And great people. You have, can you agree on that, Mr. Vandenberg?
So were you guys scared because of it wasn't the script, it was the people that you were going to be...
Well, like, when we came into the room, they were they were all there on the table talking and like chatting and being like friends and stuff, and we were like, oh man, this just isn't gonna work. We're not gonna be able to break into that.
Oh yeah.
But
I'm sure a lot of students feel that way. Every grade 8s and 9s, when they join in, your first time in, it's kind of daunting with those people who have already been in there before. But yeah, it's like, I always find there's rarely been a cast where by the time we're getting to production or even up to Chehalis, that they don't start to gel and actually become really good friends and have great interactions with each other.
Yeah, I think I took a good lesson from that, like that same experience of how we were young and then they took us under our wing. Yeah. So as like Horrific and me became more of the senior, elder actors for Romeo and Juliet, I think I had fun kind of taking on that role. As scary as it was to have the possibility of ruining the younglings, and
I'm sure they appreciate it. I noticed it, and I was very happy to see that happen. Where I like seeing that where the seniors take on the juniors, and they kind of feel they have someone on their side who's older, and there's this sense of pride that they have that like. Jonathan Chernow's talking to me, and they're all so happy.
Oh, yeah, no, all the time. I remember it was, what was that, grade 8 day, and we were going to do improv, and then a couple people pointed at me, it's like, oh, it's Potiphar.
Yeah. Like celebrities, guys. Celebrities!
Did my angry roar and scared them away. What did you take away from the plays we were in, Horrific, if anything?
I really loved our first play. I think our cast, like the cast was so like inclusive, and Nolan, he was amazing. Even
Big
though he kept on messing up the last speech over and over and like over again. Yeah. He was one of the best. He like kept us together, you know.
Love that man. Love that.
And
man.
Isaac and Daniel Choi. Amazing people.
I could just list all the seniors there. I don't want to exclude anyone, but that was also, that play was, out of the 3 that I've been in, was the only time where there was complete silence on stage where nobody knew what they were doing. I think on the other plays we were involved in, like there were a couple times, but I was done with my part. But this time I just remember standing on stage and looking at the audience, my first performance, and looking up at Nolan like a child looking at his father for guidance. And then silence. I think I broke the silence and I skipped like a page or something. But valuable lesson.
It was minimal though. It wasn't like during rehearsal. Rehearsals, there's lots of long silences, which we also had in Romeo and Juliet. But usually it seems a lot longer when you're on stage than it is in the audience. It seems like it's taking forever on stage.
That's why I was so fast on stage every single time. I would just rush over my lines because I felt like 1 second felt like 3 seconds on stage of you being crazy. Silent.
And like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, thank you. I'm like every time, because we record one of the performances, and when I'm on stage, I think like, oh yeah, that was pretty good pacing, and then I watch the recording, and I'm like, well, what was that? So like, because I'm always like going. Although I will admit that my last character was a kind of speedy boy, but I need to record myself or something, because then I'll look all janky and weird and whatnot. But I guess that's like also self-confidence issues on stage. because I remember for the first play, like I was not that comfortable at all, and I don't remember why I did it. It's probably mostly thanks to you, Mr. Vandenberg. But then
your character wasn't supposed to be very comfortable though, so it kind of fit in anyway.
that is true.
Your character is like mixed in with this whole other family, so there was supposed to be that uncomfortableness happening.
Yeah.
And also keep in mind when you're videotaping, it looks very different on video than when you're actually there. I always find the video never raises to the same bar as when you see it live. It's completely different experience. Oh yeah.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah. And then the awkwardness was also heightened by the special lengths that my character had to take during that play, my very first play. More private lessons with you.
Oh, that was awkward.
How often do you have to do that for plays?
I avoid it as much as possible. We've rarely, if you look at my posters in the back of my room, I'd say there's maybe 3 or 4 of them that actually have a kissing scene in there, which is difficult. And we got more training this time before going into for Romeo and Juliet between Egan and others. Yeah. So looking back, I probably would have done it a little differently with you and Mia for that. But the most awkward one was probably for the show Grace, where 2 of our actors had to make out for a long period of time on stage. It was hard to watch. But I refused to. It's a grade 12 play, so I told them to direct themselves, and I probably shouldn't have done that either at the time. I'm thinking about it. But it was an awkward because they had to make out, and then someone had to come in, and you thought that they were watching them, which they're not. And then they had to rewind and do it all over again.
Oh,
so it was such a drawn-out scene. But, yeah. It is.
Oh, I can tell you.
So I choose plays knowing that, like, they're going to have... we're going to find one that has too much romance in it. We try to stay away from. But Romeo and Juliet, you really can't get away with that.
Yeah.
So
does that part of casting as well, who you choose for those roles? Or
a little bit. You want to make sure that you're... I mean...
that they're good kissers and whatnot. Yeah.
Exactly. So some of that is making sure that they're going to feel comfortable being with that other person. So usually trying to find someone in the similar grade, or that there's obviously going to be hopefully some connection, as opposed to... I wouldn't have a grade 12 and a grade 8 would be... that would just heighten the awkwardness going on there. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, and well, at least it was nicer because the audition piece that we did ended up being the role that I was, so... that made things nice, because I still remember those lines very, very clearly.
Oh, yeah?
And I know Anthony does as well. He'll recite them back to me in a mocking way. It was very nice.
Way.
No, I remember. I have a good deal of those lines through trauma. But to the topic of auditions, the first audition was awful, but I know Earthic has a story with auditions if he wants to... If you want to.
So I think my second audition for Joseph was completely garbage, terrible. I tried to do a song where it's mostly raps and not singing, and Hamilton. I forgot what it's called.
Oh, that's right.
And I just like flopped, and then I didn't remember any nursery rhymes. And then I couldn't recite anything. And then I just kept on going downhill even more and even more. And they're like, oh, just think of like, I don't know, the hook. And I couldn't think of a hook. And then I still got the hook wrong when I just like, I had Mr. Vandenberg say it to me. So it was just like 4 people in the room. And I was just there being like, I was just melting down and just completely failing there.
I'm so sorry.
It was terrible.
You got into the cast.
Yeah, you still got the part, right?
Well, that was because one member had to leave.
Yeah. So he didn't make the auditions. He got in because of.
But Rithik, to be fair, when you actually got on the stage, You sounded great on there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It all worked. I always go for auditions when it comes to musicals. Just going for it and trying stuff out, and I'd rather someone go big and be even a little goofy with it. It's going to go further for me. If you're doing an opera, that would never work. But for a musical, you can get away with just being a little crazier in your performance for an audition. It's going to go better than trying to be perfect, because we're not looking, we can't expect perfection in audition. We know people are scared, people are nervous, it's going to happen. But going out there and just trying your best and just putting it all out there, whether it works or not. We'd rather someone sing a little off key but put themselves out there. We can work with that, as opposed to someone who doesn't give us anything to work with. Then we're going to sit back and go, I don't know if we can actually pull anything out of that person.
I was just imagining like for a singing auditions, like America's Got Talent kind of thing, and like someone just goes up there and starts bombing. Like I just imagine like the judges start like cracking up and stuff. Like
we have to contain ourselves.
Okay.
But we're never we're not giving them comments right after. We're not like a Simon Cowell, sir. What was that? That was awful.
But you were on the team when the school did talent shows, and you had a
but right? I always played Randy. I always was the you go dog, as black as I am.
Okay,
yeah. It was Mr. Myung got to do the Simon Cowell
and he probably did it perfectly.
Rip apart.
Yeah, of course.
Which made more sense, yeah.
Yeah.
I was more supportive.
Calling back to going big, I remember even just for the auditioning for Romeo and Juliet, because I did it twice. I went in with Joey and then I went in with Horrific. And then each time, you guys kept like, oh, try doing more of this. And I thought oh yeah, I'm totally doing that. And then I think about it afterwards, I did the exact same thing 4 times. And then
I felt the
on
same.
stage.
I felt the same.
Yeah, because by the end of a performance, I always feel at the beginning when a performance starts and I do some lines oh man, I don't know, I'm already perfect. So how am I going to improve? And then and then by the end of it, it was geez, I was a scared little boy at the very beginning. By the end, I was moving all over the place. So knowing how far you can go and big to get is still I don't know. I have no idea. But
it's all about going big. People who go big in an audition, it's going to work so much better than people trying to be perfect. We're never looking for perfection. We're looking for people we can work with who are going to also take direction. There are some people who sometimes don't get cast because we ask them to do something and they don't really know. They don't make any changes or don't take that effort to make that change, and they're I don't know if they're directable, and that's a huge aspect for our audition stuff. So if we say, hey, let's do something that's going to sound crazy, but go for it. It might be completely different than what the script is asking for. Just go for it, and that's how we can see that we can work with that person.
Just wondering, have you decided on next year's Mainstage production yet? I
have not. We are probably not. I'm trying to find scripts that will probably not be as many people. Our last 3 scripts have had over 20 people in it. And we're probably going to go with something probably a little bit more around 12 students, just to be on the safe side with COVID. And we're also, I've booked off a couple of the dates. I have 3 options of play dates in the spring, so that just in case we can move stuff where we need to move it. So I'm hoping by December we'll have more information from the government on how things are progressing and what the things are. But they're all worried about the spike in the fall, so I doubt we'll have anything happen before that. So I'm also asking that all my drama courses are in the spring as opposed to the fall, because I don't know how to do drama online at this point without just doing monologues to each other, which is fine, but not very very helpful. So
perhaps a Shawshank Redemption musical.
Yeah, well, I am writing that, but won't be for you guys.
Ooh, hear that, listeners?
Ooh,
you got to write it here first.
I'm
Yeah.
starting that in a couple of weeks. So I have it all laid out. Just have to write the songs and stuff. So.
Yeah, before this podcast, I was doing a little research on you, and I found a lovely
Oh, my.
website talking about the. Wait, hold on. Let me see if I can get the title of it. British Columbia playwright gets rave reviews.
Ooh,
Very nice.
very nice.
About your Hunger Games the
Games?
musical. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I think I only
Yes.
saw the first part of that. But
That's amazing.
calling back to going big on stage, one of the unfortunate things about going big is you can also fall directly on your face in a big way and break all the bones, and that happens to, I feel like, most actors, at least once. Maybe not you, Mr. Vandenberg, but there definitely I've definitely had some embarrassing times on stage. I can share first if you'd like, or if
Sure.
you guys have any. It was somewhat recently.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhat recently, it was an improv event.
Yeah.
I think it was for Fine Arts Fest of some sort, and it was the last game of improv. And the games before, they were fine. I was kind of out of it, but then this final game came in, and it's usually the easiest one. It's Party Quirks. Like, you don't really have to think too much about that. And we had a whole bunch of the younger grades on, and I went in and I got off kind of quickly, which is fine. But Mr. Vandenberg was staying on stage for a while, and the grade 8 host was having a hard time guessing him. So I thought, there's sometimes the people know what they're doing. They come, they knock on the door, and they kind of give a clue to who the person is. So I thought, I'll do that. And Mr. Vandenberg was playing a prisoner trying to escape from prison. So I thought, I planned in my head, I'm going to come on, and I'm going to say, yo, watch out, guards. Gotta lock down the gates, get the people in the watchtowers, stuff that's kind of related, but not directly. So I thought, I totally got this. I knock in, I get introduced, I come in on stage. I look at you, I point and say, watch out, that prisoner's trying to escape. And then I immediately collapse on the ground in shame and
lay
lay
down behind the bench, curled up in the curtains. Mm-hmm.
Like,
Thanks, Ezra. Yeah, I
In improv, I feel like mess ups are even funnier than just the actual thing. When someone messes up on stage, like, that's the funniest part.
But one of the worst parts is the grade 8 guesser, she had no idea what had happened. And because once you guess something, once you say something, she'll assume that that's not what he is.
Yeah, I wasn't helping either. I did like a whole scene from Shawshank Redemption, if you remember, for that, which I think went over pretty much 90% of the audience's head anyway. And I know that that student hadn't seen it either.
Yeah. But then I come in and cannonball and making a beautiful time.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so that wasn't that fun. But improv's always scary. And you told me once before how, like, it's inevitable to be a failure. So I took that to heart.
I don't think I said it that way.
Something along those lines. So
All right, I'll share one as well from improv.
right.
This is during my college year. I've done many embarrassing things during school too. But the one that comes to mind is there's a game called Machines. And for Machines, you have someone come up on it's a group game, and someone comes up and they do machine sound effect and movement, and then someone else comes in and joins that machine and kind of interconnects with each other. And the whole idea is to get the entire cast on stage making whatever. You can get different things from the audience. You're making a balloon, you're making socks, you're making whatever. So for college, we had this. This is in front of like 200 people for a show, and we're doing machines. And I thought, I didn't care what the machine was. I had an idea to start it off, and there was this album I used to listen to as a kid called The Music Machine. Have you guys ever heard of The Music Machine? It was this little like. It's this little Christian musical where there's this machine where they put something in a machine and a song comes out about it, and they put in a string and they have a song about string, and it's kind of
beautiful.
But then they also have one that you put like the fruits of the spirit in, and there are songs about self-control and song about patience. And
A
but
classic college
the
favorite.
actual machine had a certain sound effect, and the sound effect was whir, bomb bomb, shh. And
I feel like I've heard that before.
you might have heard that bomb bomb, bomb bomb, shh. And I was doing, so I was doing this movement that included some squat going in there, and I thought like, oh, some people in the audience are going to get this. No one did. And I'm doing this action, and I'm committing to it, and everyone else in the back are going like, what? And no one joins. So I'm just on doing this thing, and no one's like, the audience is like, you're just confused. And they actually brought the lights down.
That's such a just you alone on stage.
And then they restarted the machine, and then of course someone else came on and mimicked it, and then they got a big laugh, and then people joined, and it was
Oh,
fun.
they restarted the whole thing.
They just like, oh, let's do a new one. That was its own machine on its own. I was like, oh, that didn't go out very well. But
Oh,
those
how
things
dare
happen.
the audience not know these
How
obscure
did they not
Christian
know my?
songs?
I thought it was so clever, and I just was not. So
We appreciate
goes-
it now, and that's what matters. It makes it worth it.
oh, thanks. Yeah.
Horrific, you got one?
I can't really remember of anything. Well, something embarrassing would probably be like the time we did something with vampires for improv. I don't know if it was grade 8 day or fine art fest, but all I said was like, I kept after every sentence I would just say man. So I just said man. Hey, let's go over there, man. Let's do that, man. Let's do this, that. And then one line I think I might have went really over the top with was he's not gonna drink you. He's not gonna bite you because you have diabetes.
Oh, I remember that.
I remember that.
That was a great line.
And I felt I didn't feel bad at the moment, but later I felt pretty bad because that was like a really bad take. Very
I
bad
like that.
take.
That was awesome. The diabetes line saved the scene.
Look at you go. You got it. No, I feel like there's definitely also been some times where I made somewhat suggestive comments in front of like family and children for improv. And then, but that happens. It's like when
Improv tends to
SpongeBob
do
makes a
that.
joke and whatnot, and only the adults get it. Either of you boys, you're not as big actors as these guys, but if you have any embarrassing moments you want to throw in here to make Mr. Vandenberg feel a bit better, you can go ahead.
I remember one time I was playing Party Quirks, and I thought I was a cactus, I remember. And so I went out, and Joey was the host person. I went in, like I'm in like a little T-pose kind of thing, and then he looks at me, he's like, cactus. And then that was just it. Like, I just walked away, and then that was it.
That's good. That's
You
good.
committed so early, you just got it right away. Fantastic.
That's good.
Nice.
Isaiah, anything, or are you a champion? That's fair. Okay.
Join our grade 12 acting, please.
Yeah.
Actually, no, you can't. You can't.
Yeah. But I feel like after you failed at least once, you kind of are a bit better with the later ones. I've always admired Mr. Vandenberg, how like right before we do a play or something or improv or whatnot, you're just like, you get up there and you hype up the crowd, easy peasy. Like, what point would you say that you really got your fear of stage fright, if you ever had any, down?
I still get nervous going on in front of people.
Right.
Improv probably less so, because I know I'm hoping that people are willing to have a good time. So I feel a little less stress on that. But for any production, I mean, you guys don't see me, but before every show where I'm going up there and explaining the stuff, I'm going over in my head what I'm going to say. My wife has pointed out that I say a lot, and she sometimes counts them.
Oh yeah, I've done that with.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. So I try to go up there and that only happens when I'm just kind of floundering with what to say. I know I need to get certain stuff out. But so I'm always going through that in my head, and it's not nerve-wracking where it would ever keep me from going on stage. But improv did help me out. I did that as soon as I went to college. My first year in college, learned a bunch of improv tips and such, and I was very nervous doing improv for the first time up there. But started gaining more confidence as they went.
Cool.
So-
Yeah, that's really comforting to know that you're. Yeah, I mean, not that I want you to not be completely an incredible, perfect person,
Yeah.
but it's nice to know that the big people have flaws sometimes. Okay. Horrific?
I remember like one thing Mr. Vandenberg said that was so good that he thought he was gonna use it again, but he never used it again. I forgot. Like during this play, he said something like really good towards the audience. It was like I forgot. It was such a good line.
Oh, great story.
It was such a good line, man.
Wait,
It's like Romeo and Juliet?
Yeah, there's a really good line you said before the audience, like towards the audience.
Like funny or?
Yeah, it was good. It was the best line you could have made.
Well,
I often tell them to donate way more money than they should for a brownie or something, which usually gets a good laugh. But that's
No,
what
this was incredible. Apparently, it's a shame you missed it. Oh, well, that's all right.
I'm sorry, I just went on a tangent there. Like
No, it's fine. Well, how would you say you are on stage fright, I think?
So I still get like butterflies, but when I did our first You Can't Take It With You, right? I was just like dying each time I was about to come on. I was like nervous, I was shaking sometimes. I had like really hands that would go like this, right? I had like really shaky hands. And my feet would tremble. I would get really nervous, but now it's kind of died down and I only get like butterflies.
Yeah.
But when I go on, I kind of forget about that and I go into the character. And it goes pretty smooth, but sometimes I'll like pause on stage and then they'll come back. Because I'll go out of character for a second and then I'll go back in. And then they just emotions come in and they just come out. So I'm okay. Yeah. I'm fine.
Yeah, I definitely get the hand thing for You Can't Take It With You. When I get nervous, my hands get wonderfully cold and clammy, which was great for all the hand holding I had to do for that. really made my partner feel great. So, but and otherwise, I still definitely get butterflies for anything. But if I remember the first performance we did of Romeo and Juliet. Like, actually, I think all the performance I really got in the character for a bit. And I would just dance backstage the whole time and like get in people's faces and whatnot. So that helped. But since my first character was so shy and stupid and stuff, it was hard to differentiate that from myself.
Do you guys have a routine you guys do just before you get on stage? Is there something you do to... I know you're supposed to be getting into your character like I asked you to, but is there something you like take a breath? Do you do something with your hands? Do you do something before you get on stage?
Well, usually backstage, like I'll hang out and with people, like especially for this one with Joey, Horrific, Carter, whatnot. We'll come out, peek through the little hole in the curtains at the audience, but then as soon as the music starts playing, I just put on my glasses, and Miss Nutter let me keep my phone so I could look at the video of Ducky dancing. And I just rewatch that, and then I go to a corner and I just dance. And around just stuff. Dance. I try not to think about anything. Just and whatnot, and then walk in the green room and talk to people in character as much as I can. But I remember for You Can't Take It With You, most of the time backstage was just me just sitting on a chair, breathing heavy, trying not to vomit. So my routine is improved. Yeah. You do anything horrific?
And You Can't Take It With You, I just was kind of, sometimes I was just on my computer. I hate to admit it, but I was. And, like, our recent play, none of my time was, like, wasted. Like, whenever I was backstage, sometimes I'll look at the audience through the people and see what you guys are doing. And, but most of the time, I'll be looking at my script. I take up the whole prop table with my script, just in the middle for everyone to see. But I'm mostly just standing there, and I'm just like reading, going over through all my lines. Cause like I get nervous about my lines a lot. Like if I mess up one line, I just like beat myself over it, like the whole time backstage. One time I was saying some very inappropriate words after I messed up like one line, and Miss Nutter heard, and I got into some because there's a grade A next to her. There's a grade A next to her, and she got like a little mad, but she told me to like watch out. Okay.
Miss Nutter's great.
Good thing that she came in there to save the day.
Yeah.
Miss Nutter was great on Romeo and Juliet, and I was really happy because we have a tradition after each performance that we do in the green room where Horrific will yell "Bada Bing" and then everyone will unite in the chorus of "Bada Boom." It's always beautiful. So it was great since Miss Nutter got to be a part of the cast at the very end. I got her to join us on that last one.
That's
It was
sweet.
very nice. It was very wholesome. Okay.
She did an
Moving
amazing
on.
job as a
She-
Belsar.
Yeah.
She did.
Amazing.
She did.
Like,
Although I did still feel kind of uncomfortable having to creep around with her and like touch her shoulders and stuff, but well,
Yeah.
no, she was fine with it. It was alright.
Understood.
Yeah. Back to you were talking about college, Mr. Vandenberg.
Yes.
Now we all know that besides being a great improviser and actor and director, you are also a wonderful editor. And
yeah.
me and Horrific have seen examples of that in some drama, and you take certain classes of yours to really show off your wealth of knowledge there.
Yeah.
You want to just explain a bit how that came to be?
I kind of fell into it. We used to at college we would have we had our show's called 1107, our improv show. It happened at 1107 at night on Fridays, every other Friday. And what we'd do at the end of the year, because video, we never used to do this, but when I started, we started making video compilations at the end of the year that we would sell of just moments from improv. And I had a friend of mine who would do it most of the time. But this one of my final years at college, he was not able to do it. So I kind of had to teach myself how to kind of piece it all together. So we used Adobe Premiere at the time, and doing stuff still on videotape, analog stuff going in there, and kind of taught myself how to do some of those it was pretty basic stuff. And then I really started to enjoy it, and started doing stuff for other things around campus. Afterwards, I started doing promotion videos for different things for the school. I did a devotional series that was very interesting. That I got paid good money for, and then I got a job at for our final my final year at university, we did. I started making some comedy videos for improv, so we'd have some fun stuff. I had a couple of guys that I knew. We called ourselves the Wild and Crazy Guys. We would have weird antics. I'm sure it's something that you guys would probably do yourself. So we had one where we got into the library after hours and all the fun you could have in a library late at night. We had ones where we had where we pretended we got lots of money. We're bribing the ethics teacher, and I got the president of the university to do a fake groundbreaking for a theater I was going to create, and
So good.
so we had a lot of fun putting those together. We had some very fun stuff, and then we also did commercial parodies because I loved Saturday Night Live, and I loved their commercial parodies. So we would make some of those, and I have a whole tape of all those kind of things. A lot of fun.
Are these things that could possibly ever be released to more eyes?
I can show people those things. Yeah, I've shown some of those things. I haven't shown most of the university stuff as much because afterwards I got a job at Green Bay Bible Camp for 5-6 years doing their end of the week videos. So I wasn't getting the footage. I got other people to get footage, and then I would put it to song, and that's where I actually grew in my video editing as well. We'd also do parodies for our sponsors. So I did parodies for Pepsi and for Mastercraft boats and such.
Oh, wow.
And then I also did some comedy stuff there. My code name was Blackout, and I did a segment called the 2-Minute Blackout, where I would try things I've never done before that I'm actually not really good at. So I'm not good with heights, but I did a climbing wall, which I suck at, and had some comedy in that. And I also tried wakeboarding, which is awful. But it was fun for people to watch me make fun of myself. And then also, because I was single, we did a Bachelor parody where I was a bachelor, and at the end I don't wind up with anyone, but that's quite alright.
These sound so glorious.
It was a lot of fun. I'm sure you would like this.
Yeah,
But a lot of
people
it
you
was,
would.
yeah, a lot of it's watching what I saw on TV and going, hey, how do I do that on my video editing? And so learning how to piece things together and play around and just, yeah, it's mostly self-taught. And then I got to do, once I got to Surrey Christian, which was Fraser Valley at the time, I think my second or third year I proposed doing the media arts program for teaching editing and such. And I'm happy to be teaching it again next year. So
Very nice.
yeah.
And a little birdie once told me that you had a connection with Pixar once.
Pixar.
Yeah.
I know people who have done stuff.
I think that birdie might be a liar.
I have not done
Perhaps.
Pixar.
I wouldn't be surprised.
People who have been in our school, one of them has done stuff for Marvel and for DC stuff.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they do computer CG. Randy Huey is one of them. And then I also, the person I worked with at Green Bay Bible Camp, he's actually done stuff for, he just had this, he showed this link. He did Star Wars. He did a couple scenes from the last Star Wars, Rise of Skywalker. I think he did one of the scenes where I think Rey comes in and it has the whole battalion of Star Destroyers, all the Star Destroyers, and like and because there's so many people, it's just they have basically like a minute that they're editing amongst thousands and thousands of people. But so seeing some of those, but he did some Marvel stuff. He actually has his own one called Norman's Island. If you look it up, it's pretty cool. It's a really cute little character he created. And he actually that got more international. I think he won an award for original content against people like David Fincher and other people.
Oh, wow.
Who it was just for online content. It wasn't for like movie stuff. It was for just individual online content. And his series got that. I think he went to some conferences. He was in Germany and saw his creation on a big billboard in Germany. It's pretty awesome. His name is Nathan Thomas. He's a fantastic CG guy. He was very fun. And I got to work with him a bunch at Green Bay Bible Camp. He was my video guy, and we did a little animation thing with for one of our intros. And he's kind of similar to that little guy, so I feel I'm a part of that, even though not at all.
Wow.
So, I didn't teach him any editing. He did that on his own, but it was cool working with him. So I do know.
I wonder if we can use your connections to see what we can do from there.
The hope is for media arts next year. I actually want to bring more people in to talk to you guys. So I'm going to try bring Randy Huey, and I might try get Nathan Thomas to come in. And
That would be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be really
if you're
cool.
taking media arts next year. So.
Yeah, that's great incentive. Like classic blockbusters.
Yes.
Dimension Night Battle for Revenge Remastered.
Yeah.
And I thought we could close this podcast off with maybe just some feedback for us about that. You being the movie man himself.
I like the work that was put into it. I thought the script works pretty well. I mean, it's a nice revenge script that works. I find actually I really like the backgrounds and the animation you guys had going in. There's some feet that disappear at times and things.
Of course.
But for me, I'm like I don't do any CG stuff. Like my editing is all just analog stuff using stuff off videos. So anything that's like CG stuff, I'm amazed that it works. So. Like I love stuff like the backgrounds you guys have on a lot of scenes and stuff, and the detail that gets put in. Even the I think on one of the TV screens where you guys are dancing on that or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like those little Easter eggs going on there. Yeah, I'd say I like those aspects of it. I think the biggest thing for me is just the length that needs to be edited down. I think scenes like a car going down a road could probably be cut down.
That's a classic.
That's the best part.
No.
This is just
It was
walking
Ted.
into a row of trees, and they're just like, all right, we got it. They're going down that road. Let's
It's
go.
a very long road.
The
Oh, I
big
thought you were
thing.
talking about the Christmas one.
No,
The
sorry.
Christmas one with the car is so good.
Oh, just going up there.
Yeah, if you want, you can check that
Well,
one
no
out.
reason for that scene in the movie. It's for filler.
And then followed by that is like another minute and a half scene of Santa working out.
That's 2
Like,
minutes.
just- it's 2 minutes. Yeah, you can watch that as well.
Are you guys creating these, like, I'm looking like, I see like Star Wars background stuff. You guys creating those from scratch, or do you guys have a place you're getting that from?
Well, actually, I can say.
Okay,
So,
Yeah.
a lot of things are made from scratch, but there's a website where you can download Blender models, which Blender is
Okay.
the program we use. So,
Yeah.
and you can also use them from like other things like video games and stuff like that. So we do make a lot of original things, but a lot of things are also used from other like places, or we just borrow them. Yeah.
What's
Yeah,
your
listen.
What's your guys' favorite thing you guys made from scratch? What's your piece de la resistance? Yeah, favorite object or person or whatever.
I would have to say mine is probably so there's a car, and it was really complex to make. Actually, it's not that complex, but it's a Mercedes G-Wagon, and I was
Yeah.
surprised
Yeah.
how well I made it look like the actual thing.
Yeah.
So,
Does that appear in every movie?
I don't think so.
There's a lot of cars in each movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Liam, you got anything? Because you were also one of the main.
Yeah, for me, probably for the Christmas movie, I made a little thing of Bethlehem that comes at the beginning of the movie.
Oh,
And
nice.
I thought that was a nice looking set that I made.
It was very nice. Yeah, I encourage you to check that one out. I honestly,
Christmas one?
a bit of a hot take. I prefer the Christmas one over the remastered.
Mm-hmm. Same.
I also do.
I think that's pretty unanimous.
Mm-hmm.
We
The
all-
I think
Christmas
it
one
has-
had a lot more charm and charisma
Yeah,
to
I
it.
was just gonna say, there's a lot of charm in that one. Had
Was the
some real
Christmas one
voice acting.
before, or is it after this one?
It's before.
All right.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Dimension I Remastered was a prequel to that. So.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's real voice acting in the Christmas one. You can
Yeah.
check it out. Speaking of which, we do
Yes.
have a big film coming out hopefully this Christmas, which you hopefully aware of, and we are trying to pretty much fully voice act that. Now there are a couple scenes where some smaller roles need to be filled or some lines can be thrown in the background, and I just wanted to ask you on the podcast. You said before to ask if we ever wanted to repurpose any of the audio from this podcast. Had to ask with you, but if you ever wanted to, would you be willing to contribute one or two voice lines to the upcoming hit movie? You want to be credited on that?
Sure, why not?
All right.
Excellent.
Yes!
Wonderful. We'll send you the contract later.
Yeah.
We're getting those in development.
Depends
But
what the
that's-
lines are, what the scene is that I'm involved in.
we might just, another laugh will be guaranteed.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
And then
it very well just may be a laugh.
If it's be the laugh, you can just use my one from the podcast if that's what you want. For that.
okay.
I'm fine with that. Can I just say, I love the fact that you guys are doing this, that all that you guys just got together and are doing podcasts and making movies. I listened to your guys' podcast on how you guys came to be. I think with Mr. Fernhow telling you just to go for it and make a channel. I think it's awesome. I would have done this if this was available when I was in high school. So I'm proud of you guys for actually just getting together and putting this together and working hard at it. It's awesome when you get
We really
play
love
around
to
with
hear
stuff.
it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you very much.
Honor.